Hey, how you doing, Ava? Not too bad. I'm you know, writing trying to there's a lot of like legislative rewrite we're doing. One being like moving the penal code into legislative documents. But then I'm also trying to like reorganize what is currently there. Oh, this is my law office.
This is nice.
Yeah. It's I've been this was gonna be what I was gonna be doing after I retired from mayorship, but you know, shit happened.
This reminds me of a law library.
Like the what?
It reminds me of a law library.
Yeah, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's
lot.
all right. So
yeah. All right. Well, I'm sorry to bother you.
no, it's not no bother. You know, I am the mayor, so you know, anytime anyone's got a chat, especially you know, a judge, it's important for me to make time. You know what I mean?
I can't sit.
Oh shit. Oh, you kind of have to think about you know, setting a little bit differently.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
That'll do it. Oh my god, you know. Yeah, I'll do that. I needed some advice.
Mm-hmm. Okay, sure.
Oh shit. I'm so sorry, I'm about to be a corpse.
Oh, do you need food?
Yes.
Hold on, give me a sec. Yo, I'll place that right on the ground there for you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yep, absolutely.
Literally notorious for the. Thank you. Were you at the case yesterday?
I was, yes.
Yes, you were. I remember I saw you briefly. I'm trying to kind of find my. I don't know how much you know about things, but I've been a judge since October, but others issues have prevented me from really being around a lot, period. I'm hoping that within the next 2 weeks or so, that circumstance will improve and I'll be able to be around more. But I'm trying to find my footing as a judge. I'm I'm not always, because I haven't been around even people who've become judges after me. I feel like they have more experience than me in that regard. And I don't always feel, I don't want to say confident, but I don't really feel like I should be pushing back on some things. But I feel like I want to. This is an opportunity because things have changed. We have active present justices who are really interested in doing the work, and I don't think that climate exists anymore where as a judge you feel like you don't have a say or you don't, like, you're invisible. So I want to figure out a way to create my, I don't know, is it right to say my style? I don't know.
Sure.
I think I'm more for other reasons. I need to have more structure in the court, and I think people are used to more freedom, and I don't know. I don't want to be. I don't want to take anything away from anybody, but at the same time, in order for me to do what I need to do, I do need to, have some kind of structure. And I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but at the same time, I don't want to feel like I should let mine be stepped on unintentionally, and not in a bad way, but mm,
Is there anything in particular that makes you feel that way?
the way I read laws and the way I apply them, interpret them, it's not just, oh, let's do this. It's I look at it from both sides, and I try to see what is applicable, and then from that, what is fair. Like yesterday, that case that we had there, it was a bit tricky, but at the end of the day, when you actually read Tennessee and you look at what qualified immunity is, and if the only thing that would have made it go the other way 100% was if the knuckle dusters weren't in place. If it was without that, it would have been completely different. But I could understand his point of view. I can understand where he would believe that there's no more of a threat, but that's as long as you have something that's deemed a lethal weapon on you still, and there's still more people that you can encounter, you're a threat. Because if it just didn't. I tried. I'm not saying I tried to find a way to not vote the way we did. I'm just saying I do look for every avenue, and then I
Mm.
come out with the one that makes the most sense, even though I do understand why he would feel that way. Because, but if you know in your mind you're not going to do something, or your intentions are, it's great, but other people don't know that.
Mm.
I have some issues with the some of the things I saw in the report. Um, there seems to be this doesn't even apply to him, but there's just something I read in the report about how I guess it was somebody else that was on scene, maybe somebody was he was getting with her or whatever, but that person was told that if they did something, they were going to be beat down. And then they did it, and then they were beat down. That, to me, sounds telling somebody that you're going to assault them does not take away the fact that you've assaulted them. So I'm wondering, is that the mentality that you can use force? Like that's the kind of thing, but that didn't apply to him, so I couldn't even put that in. So I was kind of limited.
I feel like you may, and correct me if I'm wrong here,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead.
that you might be doubting your decision or feeling like you may need to explain yourself.
No, I don't doubt it because we took so long getting to it. We went through
Mm.
every angle of it, and it just kept coming back to he still had the weapon on him, and the the things we were going by, basically Tennessee and the qualified, that standard was not being met from the other side, because from the plaintiff side, to make
Mm.
it not apply.
I agree.
My problem is that I can see why he would feel that it was. See, here's the thing. If I knew how many times he was shot, like how many, what kind of, that's the thing. Use of force is not a problem. Excessive force is a problem.
Mm.
So that's what I need to know. I need, if he had a medical report that said he was shot like 5 times, if he had something that said that after he was cuffed or after he was in, that in addition to the shit talk, maybe somebody kicked him or tased him or something like that, that would apply. But nobody had any medical records. It was just, and then both of their basic stories kind of correlated, and then it just came down to he still had what is deemed a lethal weapon on him, and he was potentially going to encounter more people. And then it was the person who made the call, was she careless in her order, or was she going off in that moment the best information that she had available, trusting the information that she was getting was legit? But then also, how much can you trust what you're being told? You have to trust your officers, right? But what if they're not telling the truth? What if they're exaggerating? But these are all things that we can't know because we weren't there. So you just have to make the best decision you can with what you do have.
I think it's important for me to point out that at the end of it,
Yeah.
you know, I was asked what did I think, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna be honest, that put me in an extremely awkward spot
I didn't
because
even hear you.
oh
I was so
yeah.
mad because he threatened to give me. I went straight hood. I was like, I was so heated about that. It's like, dude, I understand you don't like the ruling, but if you're gonna threaten me, don't walk away, bro. I'm right here. What you do it?
Damn.
I'm not gonna. But yeah. But anyway, I didn't
Yeah.
even hear what you said at that. But
It was
yeah, go ahead.
it was Yilong that asked me you know
Mm.
what did I think about it, like it was
Yeah.
very, and I was like standing there next to the defense attorneys, the judges, and like I how do I put this, I appreciate the fact that he respects my opinion, but I also am
Not on the spot.
on the spot, like I'm a very forward person. You know that,
Yeah.
Ava.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I can't not have a not forward answer, right?
Hmm.
And but so, and I knew that if I one way or another, and I'm hypercritical, right? Like I mean, and that's
Yeah.
not meaning that those that I am critiquing or whatever it is, there's anything wrong, but rather it's just how I answer things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
Hmm.
I don't believe in perfection, right? Anything can be
Right.
critiqued. Hell, the way this fire is burning, I'm sure it could be burning better. You know what I'm saying? It's just how I'm wired up. But
I got you.
at the end of it, my genuine opinion is that I think it was a good court case. I do not think, despite how I believe 95% of the city, it feels like, thinks that there is a right or wrong in every situation. I
Hmm.
think this is one of the situations where it really boils down to opinion and how you view the situation. And so
Mm.
I felt I was in a position where I could have said, I agreed with some things from different sides, right? And it sounds really fence city, but it's
Yeah.
more a reality of what happened. Going into the case,
Yeah.
just straight up at face value, I didn't think Jay had much of a case, right? Now, some of it was clouded. If I'm going to be frank here,
Yeah. Go ahead.
um,
It's over. We can talk freely about it because I will be honest with you.
yeah,
When I first saw it, I thought he did have a case until more explanation was
mm,
applied. Because I'm gonna be honest with you about this part. It's not a bias, but from civilian to just being in the city and being a doctor, I have seen people come in. When I was a doctor, I used to see people come in by the police, brought in, and they were fucked up, and they would be in handcuffs and saying
mm,
how they got tased, they got kicked, they got this, after they were already secured. And I saw that firsthand as I
mm,
treated them. As a civilian, I've been in situations where I was a hostage, and I've seen how, sometimes me as a hostage, I was more secure with the criminals than I was with the police when they got there. So I know that things like this can happen. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, wow, okay, this is pretty straightforward. Just have to look at it and see, what happened. But then as we dug into it and looked at what the standards were that we were supposed to apply to say this is okay or not, the thing that messed it up was the knuckle dusters. If
mm,
those weren't, even if they were in use, but they weren't deemed lethal, it would have been different. Because if you're fighting with something that's not a lethal weapon and they turn around and use lethal force on you, obviously that's not matching,
fire
right?
tank.
But If it was hands, or if it was something that a wrench or something else that wasn't considered that, then yeah, it would have been different.
I
But go ahead and say
it
what you're saying.
it's it's um it's so for me. It I this is such like a, let's call it a technical case,
Yeah.
but those technicalities also are heavily opinion based on how we interpret the world around us.
Yeah.
I think so. I'm gonna just note some things, and I think it's important that I highlight it because it gives my entire frame of reference.
Yeah.
I think that the attorneys were pretty fresh in their attack and their outlining of why their client was in the right. That's okay. But that's what I saw. They were bullied
Yes.
and they allowed it to happen. And when challenged, they cowered and gave up. Number two, they made a massive mistake by not calling up Helen and Quangle, preventing them asking any directs. In fact, in the cross, there were certain objections that were made that they could have objected back on because some of those objectives objections aren't applicable in a cross examination. But you know, and a big piece was, and actually Alex, when he started off, had a great series of questions. Unfortunately, he needed that energy going in by calling in Helen and calling in because it wasn't even clear where the strike happened, right?
Well,
And it wasn't. But just to finish iterating, just so you know, my pictures all out there is the next is that is a knuckle duster a deadly weapon? That is a, let's call it a worldview question. And to explain what I mean by that is when I think of it, back in the day, and this might sound a little strange, but it's important, is that knuckle dusters were have been considered lethal because they were made of such high titanium like material that they used to just like completely knock someone down one hit, you know, like you hit them, you're probably knocking them down. They're very strong.
I remember.
And since then they have sort of reduced in that ability, but it's not just that. For me, and this is more on a how I view things level, is that if he had punched, if Quangle is talking shit and he felt threatened because Quangle's got a gun and he's threatening he's going to shoot him and all these things that he has experienced in the past and have been documented but not presented, then there can be, then as a human, him punching him and saying, get away, that punch, regardless of the knuckle duster, not knocking him out, and you know, now, you know, he's running away, and Quangle, as the guy who's hit, is still able to chase after him, then my argument would be, given those facts, while the knuckle duster has the propensity to be deadly, the use of it was not, given the situation that followed it. And as such, and also there was no intention, because if there was, he could have kept going at it, which he didn't. So therefore, I would say that Tennessee versus Gardner already doesn't exist. As for the qualified immunity, and I know there's the this is the what do you call it, the what is the D Act, the Immunity Act, is it requires perception, but perception, I believe, still requires justification. And the question becomes, does someone, another law enforcement officer who is not on the scene, are they able to perceive to a reasonable extent the circumstances? And if it was, and for me, I'm kind of like I'm sort of on a bit of a razor's edge with my opinion on that, which is on one hand,
Mm-hmm.
they hear the information, but what they would have heard is this guy has hit me with a knuckle duster, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
still talking on the radio, and he's running away. Do I have enough of that information being away from the scene to really make the call? In my opinion, no, because if we use that standard that you can be away from a scene and on very little information, that means like you could be a dispatcher and like you're hearing things like, oh, I'm perceiving that this could be an alley. You know what I mean? Like for me,
Yeah.
the bar doesn't, but it's an opinion, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
No, it is, but it's not. It makes sense.
yes. The final thing I want to say is, even though I am leaning in that way,
Mm-hmm.
I also say that the defense did a very poor job presenting an argument like the one I just brought up, right? And that's where I think it would have been
Yeah.
very, you know, it's so opinion based. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, what are you? Were you done?
Yeah. Please.
Okay. Well, what I would say about it is no, nothing against Angel, but in this particular case, she really didn't have to do much because it was if when Jay said that he wanted to fire his attorneys, part of me was like, "Do you want to do it?" But I wanted to say, "Do you want to just represent yourself now?" Because at this point, it what the things you were saying were what we were noticing as well. There wasn't enough. I even told the probationary attorney after that you have to be more aggressive and not
Yep.
you know arguing with them, but if they're getting under your skin, you have to kind of return the favor and you have to stand your ground more. But he's a probationary attorney; he's learning it. But yeah, I get it. From our standpoint, I'm not gonna say our. From my standpoint, it was a situation where if we had more uh, information, it would have been easier to understand because there was testimony and there was report information that hitting was going on throughout, Chase. But the main uh, takeaway I got was that the knuckle duster hitting was on during the foot chase. So, but then whatever happened in the water, happened in the water while he's getting away. But a lot of it is opinion. It's what's more likely than not is what we got down to,
Mm.
and also people. There's a much lower standard in civil than it is in criminal, and you know that. So
Mm.
what you have to satisfy for criminal, which is why there was no double dipping. Somebody had mentioned that on the docket. We don't care about. I don't think we don't care about his criminal matter isn't relevant to this. It's not about
Mm.
whether or not he committed a crime and got arrested. None of that matters for this. It mattered not that he was arrested. It was how was he arrested? Did you use more force than was necessary to get him into custody and all that? That was what I was looking for. That information, and neither side had enough to say I have on like Quengo was talking about injury and all that. No records. Just okay. So there's nothing. If he wanted to say I want money for that, you can't get that. And with Jay, if we just had something from the hospital or something that said these were his injuries after this, then we could say, oh my God, what was that? All that really? Because that would make sense. And it just comes down to what makes the most sense. What is most likely the case here? And that's what it turned out to be. And I don't like somebody feeling like they were mistreated and then justice wasn't served. But if you look at like, do you ever like look at news or anything from elsewhere?
Way too much.
Okay, well, back home, I remember there was a case years ago with this former football player, and he had an ex-wife.
Wait, this
Sadly,
sounds
she and
familiar.
him were unalived, and
Mm.
he had to stand trial for that because people thought he did it, and a lot of people thought he did it, and then he was acquitted, and then the
Oh
families
my God,
sued him
average
civilly.
waifu. Thank you for
He
the
was
tip,
acquitted.
bro.
Criminal said he didn't do it.
Sometimes I wonder
But
if time is
sadly,
just some
they took his
human-made
degree.
Sometimes I
construct.
wonder
He
if
won
time
civilly.
is just some
So
human-made
it's
construct.
that kind of thing of
Yo, thank you so much, man,
I
for the
understand where you're coming
22.
from. I understand from him. I understand where you're coming from. From them, I know he was guilty, found guilty there, but this is not criminal, it's civil. So now I have to just get what's most likely, what's more likely than not, and that's where I got. But
Mm.
I don't know how to ex. I don't know how to express to people because like Jay yesterday, there was no explaining anything. I let him. I didn't hold him
I
in
did speak
contempt.
to him afterwards, for what it's worth.
Oh, okay. Well, I
Yeah.
didn't hold him in contempt because I know, well, I felt that that was passion for feeling I was, violated or I was fucked up or whatever, and then brought it to court and still nothing happened, and still, so I felt that's where
Yeah.
it was coming from, so I didn't do that.
Man,
But
Ava
then,
is fucking good, man.
threatened me, and then it's just like
She is the
New
most
York Ava comes out a little
considerate
bit. So I'm like,
judge.
okay,
It's
but
actually
I don't know
insane
why, but
how she's breaking this down, her thought process.
I'm not even sure. I need.
I know some people were crying like little fucking virgins.
I don't know. I wanted advice. I
Most
guess.
people don't think this
I'm not
deep.
even sure at this point what advice
They only
I
look at the
want.
W's and L's because they're mentally retarded. It's crazy.
I don't want to be mean. I don't want to be seen as that, like I'm not. I don't know.
It. I may have misheard, or I might have missed something. Is you said I'm looking for advice, but I don't want to be mean.
No, sorry. I'm sorry.
Yep.
I said I'm looking. I was looking for his advice because I don't want to appear mean. I am. I have Asperger's, so I am pretty straightforward usually in how I see things and how I speak.
Mm.
Sometimes, like, if I'm talking to people and they don't say anything,
Mm.
in my brain, I take that as if I'm not being clear, I'm not explaining, so I start
Oh,
to say it a different
trust
way.
me, I very much know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm a yapper, but
I
not by
very
choice.
much no. I'm the exact same way. I think why I get labeled the yapper, and I'm like,
I
listen, I'm
am
sorry.
too.
Like,
I'm a
I'm
yapper.
waiting for your social cue to tell me that you actually
Yes.
what your perception level here is, because right now I'm reading either you're not understanding any of this and you need more
Exactly.
information,
Mm-hmm.
or something. So like,
a different
at
way,
least give me a
exactly.
huh or a okay, all right.
Yes.
Like, give me something,
Yes.
brother. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't help, by the way, that in San Andreas, everyone's got such AC/DC. So it's not even whether or not they're understanding; it's whether or not they're looking at their fucking twatter and not. You know what I'm saying?
No,
So-
I get it. But I have gone on and on and on and on. And I'm aware of it, but I don't see it as that. I just see it as I'm talking to somebody and it's crickets. So even notice even when you're talking, I'm going, yeah, because that's what I need from myself.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
I'm the exact same way. Trust me.
and it's also one of the reasons why I need some structure in the court, like for you only two. Like I told them that only two people could represent each side because I don't want to have a bunch of cops coming in and saying objection and approaching because one, it'll keep us there forever, and two, it's a shit show, and I don't want that. The back and forth between the sides that has to be at a minimum, and all that. But I felt bad for Jay, even though he threatened me and everything, because I don't know. I guess this is it. I don't know how to express that. Even if I have to vote against, not vote, but if I have to rule against you, I do understand where you're coming from, because that's going to be seen as I am okay. Technically, she couldn't, rule against us, but she wanted to, and it still puts that idea out there. But I don't know how to do that and make, because even if you don't win, does it make a difference if the judge, understands where you're coming from? Well, if you understand, why didn't you rule for me? So I don't know how to kind of maneuver that. And I had some, this is just between me and you, okay?
Mm.
During the deliberation, I had some issues with some things that I was trying to, but the other things that we talked about kind of trumped those. But I'm trying to figure out, should I have tried to make more of a point of that? Or is that me trying to find a way?
More of a
You
point
know?
of what? Sorry.
Um, because it comes down to not necessarily, I don't want to say it comes down to who you believe, but like, is it more likely than not that there were more cops, that there were cops on both sides, like Hightower said? Yes, it's because it's a scene. They're actively chasing someone. So it is more than likely that there were other cops there, but we didn't know that for sure, and we also didn't know for sure what he would do. He could have come out another end. He
Mm.
could have. So I wanted to say that by that standard, then the Garner might have been compromised there, because he might, in that case, he wouldn't necessarily have been an immediate threat,
I
because if he could have gotten away. But then we talked about it more, and it was like, no, it's true, because more likely than not, yeah. So yeah, and then that's how it ended up.
I genuinely don't think you had much to work with, and I'm gonna be just straight with you.
Hmm.
My perception of what occurred, because I've heard from him. I had heard from him directly, and uh, I went from you have a case to hearing the actual facts and being like, oh, this guy's not got a case,
Hmm.
right? Because it's what they tell you, and then it's what you hear in court actually happened, like at least the raw facts,
Yeah.
and then there's what's argued. And I will, and this is nothing against Alex, it's nothing against Mason. I
Hmm.
genuinely think that they've been failed by the previous regime from like a
Yeah.
year ago, where,
Hmm.
and me and Serenade spoke about this. We want to do something about it. Is a year ago plus, lawyers were scared, as in my opinion, some magistrates have been, in
Hmm.
that if they act or behave a certain way, or may have different politics or whatever,
Yeah.
is that they're going to lose their bar license. And a lot of lawyers and
Yeah.
stuff quit. And so what is left,
Hmm.
and this is going to, I'm not trying to be a dick here, but what's left is feeble lawyers, like, or ones
Yeah.
that are not going to push back, or have taken a position where they're going to be extra cautious to not sound too aggro, right?
Yeah.
And I think that hurts them. So the moment Quango's doing this what thing, it's hilarious, right? But I would have straight up raised my voice and treated him like a little bitch, because if
You got
you,
me with that one.
I mean, it was
couldn't
funny as
tell.
fuck. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong,
I couldn't tell
but
for a minute. I was just like,
instead
when he
of,
went from a what to huh.
oh
That's when
my god,
I
that was
lost my
funny.
shit.
Yeah,
But I
it's
couldn't laugh. But I'm like, mm.
yeah, I think there's two things at play. One is that I think it's fucking disgusting that a member of law enforcement, Quangle, which I know he's a funny, like, Steve Urkel ass motherfucker, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Hmm.
And which, by the way, after yesterday, towards the end there, like, I think this guy just completely knocked off Steve Urkel. What was the show? Was it for like Family Matters?
Your family
Um,
matters. Yeah.
yeah, I like straight like this guy's been watching it like late at night type shit.
Yeah.
But then including High Water, my issue is it's funny, right?
Hmm.
But there is this room of like, how do I put this? That was corruption on the stand. from in my opinion.
Which part?
It starting with Quangle's hms and has, and with High Water, she was doing a different tactic, but the same thing. And I call it corruption because inherently, as law enforcement, you are on the stand representing our laws and justice, and you know, all those things. And if you are finding a mechanism by which to hide the truth, I wish you dead on the streets.
Oh God. No,
yeah, or unalive on the streets.
No, don't say that.
Yeah.
But you know what was funny? I hear what you're saying there. I didn't go that way in my thinking, but one thing she triggered in me a memory.
I love when I'm just like, I want him dead.
When she started with the, I don't remember. It reminded me of a guy years ago. He did the whole, he was doing the whole thing. I don't recall. Yeah, I don't recall. Yeah, I don't recall. It was actually kind of amazing, but I thought that's where she was going with it, where she was just going to say that she didn't remember anything. And
oh yeah, it's a kid.
Please don't do that, because you can't say that. I thought that was going to be cover your ass time, but she didn't keep doing that, which was good.
True.
But
Hendrix, like the 11 months.
It comes down to how much can you trust the information that your officers are relaying to you. Because if you're going to make a decision like that based on that, it has to be sound. It has to be beyond reproach. But what if they're lying? What if they're exaggerating? Like you said, who did she get the calls from? Him? The other officer that was supposed to come that didn't show up?
But you can't, and the thing is, you cannot, and this is why, it's not on the judges to figure that out, because it's impossible. That's where the defense attorney should be asking. I was shocked, actually, even when with Quangle, is like they didn't clearly establish where was the assault, right? Were they standing there? Were they like where were you standing? How long was the duration of the chase? How long was the duration between you hitting Quangle and you being shot? Right? Can you tell me exactly where you were standing? I don't remember. You know, was it a quarter mile? Was it 100 feet? Was it the distance of a house? Right? And make sure that they're succinct. The moment, even during, let's ignore the fact that Quangle and Helen weren't called up by the prosecution. But for a second there, but when they came in to cross-examine Jay, the defense attorneys or the prosecution let him yap. You don't do that. No, you got to object. Object. Don't let your client mess up the mess up the flow, because they're going to keep yapping.
I thought he did try at one point, because when Jay was on the stand, he was gonna that he ended up saying it anyway. But he started to say about how, well, if I punch you, you know, the line about I'll punch right through you or something, you'll know, that kind of thing. He started to say that before, and then I heard Alejandro go that he like said something and then he stopped, and then he asked another question, and then when he was supposed to be done, Jay rounded back to it and said it anyway. And so I did think he was
the gap between Nino being so crass and Ava being so sweet and polite,
continuing to say more. But that is a rule of thumb, isn't it? When you have your prep, you teach your clients, do not offer more information. If it's even a yes or no answer, you just answer what you're asked, and that's it. Don't offer anything, because once you offer something, you can open the door for another line of questioning that wouldn't have been there had you not said that.
It's funny you mentioned that. There was that tactic. There was a point where Angel, and I caught this, and I knew what she was doing. She goes, did you take, like, she compounded her question with the phrase illegal weapon or something, right? and tried to infer by, what do you call it? By Jay's answer that Jay claimed that it was that he had a lethal weapon, right?
Yeah.
And that comes back to coaching, right? Now, I will say that I think there's a little confusion in our existing law whether or not what is legal coaching and what is illegal coaching. I forgot the actual two phrases, but
Yeah,
there's
I know what you mean.
you can tell them how you should be answering, but you cannot tell them what to say.
Exactly.
And those little things are. I mean, I can't also fully blame prosecutors, right? Once again, ACDC. It's so hard to get somebody in a room. They're like, "Oh, what do you mean? No, I'll be at the court case. You got this, right?" And then their Pikachu face when they lose the case because they yap too much, you know.
Yeah, there. I wish there was a way to. What I would. This is. I don't think it's going to be an issue anymore. Actually, I know it won't be an issue anymore. But becoming a judge. I don't know about lawyers. I can't actually speak on that. But I know from becoming a judge,
Mm-hmm.
I had a foundation, but I had been a doctor for a long time, so I was at best rusty, and it was a lot to catch up on. And then I had other issues going on. But if it wasn't for Grayson, I don't know what I would have done because there was no structure for learning. There was no follow me, tag along, learn this. There was nothing. The person who gave me instruction, ironically, is I went to Angel and I said, is there anything I need to like focus on? And she told me what to be very familiar with, and I did that. But then everything else, it was Grayson, me tagging on like a puppy behind him, and him having the grace to show me things, let me go on panels with him until I was, more secure.
It's way worse for lawyers. There's none. Like Alex
Yeah.
is he's timid, he's smart, but
Yeah.
he's missing a lot of check boxes because I don't think those check boxes exist with practicing lawyers. Like, the how to be aggressive, how to be demanding, knowing when to approach the bench, right? And like little things like that. And it's not, and I keep saying this is, they can't self figure it out. There's, where are they going to pick it up from? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And,
It is hard if you don't have like a
yes,
teacher, or not even a teacher, but what do you call it?
a
What do
guide,
you what's that other word? A mentor. A mentor.
mentor, yeah.
Yeah, because that's somebody who is gonna put you on a path, and then you do all the work, but then they're there to kind of motivate you or correct you, offer something, and then you don't just feel like you're gonna sink or swim, And then what really bothered me, I think I can say this now because it's not, well, all right, I don't care. Anyway, the thing that happened with Jaina bothered me because it's like you're punishing somebody for doing something or not doing something that they never got any kind of formal training about, but you didn't teach them. It's like you're punishing me for getting an F, but the teacher never showed up to teach me the lesson in the first place. So I did the best I could figuring it out on my own. And but you're going to punish me for that. That bothered me. That's why I'm saying I don't think that kind of thing is going to happen anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, she, I don't know. It was such a fucking toxic environment, the entire DOJ, as far as I'm concerned.
It
It's
wasn't easy.
no, and it's throughout San Andreas. It's you know, let. This is gonna sound awful. There are times where I just say, listen, live your fantasy, enjoy it for the next couple months. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's yeah. As awful as that sounds, that's actually probably the most healthy mental you can take because you kind of have to be a bit unbothered. Some people are enjoying their, temporary, position, right? Like I'm gonna be, like I'm out. Like I thought I was gonna be out fucking 2 weeks ago, but I'm out, I'm not gonna have it anymore, right? And same goes with like cops, right? Some of these guys, they will fucking, the shit that they've done in order to maintain their fucking, positions is nasty. Like be nasty all you want. Enjoy. right?
get it. Okay,
Like
I
I'm
get
gonna
what you mean.
maintain my, my, at least I get to maintain my soul. You know what I mean? I can be an asshole, right? But there's certain shit that I would never do.
We all can.
You know?
We all can.
Um,
But before I forget, I'm
mm,
sorry to interrupt you, but I have to say this. I'm going to forget. You remember how we had a conversation or two over the last couple of months, and it was like, what I'm, I don't even think I'm, the things I'm trying to do, I can't do another.
mm,
But it took a long time. But look at where you're leaving. Look where you're leaving the city. Like
mm,
all the you have a DOJ that is now functional. People are present. They are willing and able to work with the mayors and stay where they're supposed to be and let other people do. Look, I mean, I know it wasn't just you because other things had to happen for it to happen. But do,
mm.
do you honestly believe that if you hadn't done all four, do you think we would be in this position right now? You're literally leaving when you leave. Whoever comes next, light work.
Damn, damn. I hope that to be the case. Um, I think you're right in the sense that I think, you know, um, everybody involved, including yourself, right? From the very lead up to the original term to the slow chipping away. I do agree that things are going to be a lot better. And I think that's always been the goal from the very beginning, is so that you can have your Osvaldos, you can have the,
Yeah.
he was like the litmus test. Can Osvaldo be mayor without everything turning into a shit show? The barriers being removed, so you're not coming in and having to sit in front of an MDT all day, and
Yeah.
and I don't. It's definitely in a much better spot. You're right about that.
I don't think you and honestly, no, obviously no disrespect to you because I give you your flowers all the time,
Mm.
but I think the person who has done so much and has gone unrecognized for the most part. I don't think people know how much Michael has done and how much he should
Agreed.
be appreciated. And but if it wasn't for Michael, and he's just so good. He's so amazing, and he does not get. I know he gets it from you, but people at large do not know how phenomenal and how vital he's been
Mm.
to everything that's happened. So
Which is what makes it crazy when he can get shot and they don't give a fuck, or it's gotten better. Like LSPD knows him, you know what I mean? But
yeah,
man, Ava, there was times where there's still are times where like he'll try to get checked by, you know, a cop,
yeah,
and I'm just like, brother, this guy writes your paychecks because I don't have time to write them anymore, type shit. You know what I mean?
The funny thing is, with me, I'm used to the fact that I'm either going to be seen as, brilliant or mentally challenged, depending on whether or not something I say or do is liked or not by people. I don't really care what people say or think because it's not going to affect how I feel
The
about
way
me
she said that.
or what I'm working with. But people I respect, like you, and people that I have some kind of emotional investment, like my fiance, my family, their opinions matter when I'm struggling to find. Like right now, I knew I needed advice. I knew I needed something, but I did not have the ability to really articulate exactly what I needed. But for
Mm.
something I knew I needed, like your advice. You're straightforward with me. So even though I don't know exactly what it was, you kind of gave it to me because I feel better in. So I don't know exactly if I touched on whatever I needed and we got it, but I feel better about how I want to present myself as a judge and where I
Mm.
want to be in this dynamic moving forward. I'm going to speak up more on things that I feel need to be, maybe even if it's not going to, maybe put a little dissenting opinion in a judgment here and there if I just so that it's on record, so that
Mm.
if it comes up in another case, they'll be able to say, well, even though the verdict went this way, there was a dissenting opinion from one of the judges on the panel that they did see this, and that can technically be used, as a reference. And then in another case, even if the judgment was not in favor.
Mm.
So I think I might start doing that, because I don't think the people, the justices that are in place now, are going to mind that kind of thing, because the majority, Gates, Gara, Grayson, Sean, yeah, they were fine with dissenting opinions before. It wasn't like everything had to be, uniform. So I think it would be all right.
Mm.
So I don't even know how you helped me, but thank you for helping me.
Yeah, no, of course. One thing I do want to leave you with is
Yeah.
I do think that the DOJ, I'm a big process guy, right? I love that we have things getting written down. This is my dream, what we've got being made. I do believe the DOJ, and this is something I may end up having my office do by end of this month anyways.
Yeah.
But man, y'all could really use some open public documentation. It may exist behind, some and if you already got it, that's good too. Is having some of these things written down, right?
Yeah.
And so when you have a magistrate, there's two things that I think come hand in hand to training. One is documentation, and the second is the guidance, the mentorship. And I feel like having written down what a judge can and cannot do, how they can and cannot think, what are their boundaries, right, is important, so that those that come down the line are not searching blindly.
Funny you should say that.
Right?
We do have something now because of Sean.
Oh, good.
Sean basically put out a handbook.
He is fantastic.
A week or so ago. He's amazing.
Yeah.
He's amazing. I have been a Grayson, why isn't Grayson a Justice White, for months. When this last one happened and Sean got it, Sean was the only person that I would say, you know what, I still believe you should have got it, because you're Nathaniel, and you're amazing, and everybody goes to you. But if somebody had to take it instead of him, Sean was the only one I wasn't going to be like, burn it all down. Because he does everything, and he does it well, and he's still trying to help and advise. I mean, obviously people, have issues with each other, but they'll work it out, the people that do. But he's golden. And he put that together. It's a handbook that tells us everything that we need to know from front to front, and it also references back to, other things that we need to look at for further guidance on things. So we have that. We do have that now.
That is good. That's
and
really
Grayson
good.
had something that he had done a long time ago that was a very good reference as well. So, but I think people didn't know it was there until he told them.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
We have those things now.
Hell yeah.
Thankfully.
Well.
Anyway, I appreciate your time, and I do appreciate it. You take these moments with me sometimes to just,
of course,
kind of let me yap, I guess.
I think it's important that every member of government do these things. You know what I mean? I'm always open for it, because look, there's a lot of responsibility on our collective shoulders, and I think more communication is always good, especially when it comes to understanding perspective. So
yeah. But
for what it's worth, Jay is not going to be giving up hope. I think he was a little bit. I think Jay's a good one in that he is a little bit more open to, hey, something didn't go my way. That doesn't mean that this thing isn't going to work anymore. And that was a big part of what I described to him yesterday. Is that
I told Alejandro to have him appeal.
Oh, that's actually a really good idea, to be honest.
I told him I don't care if a judgment of mine gets overturned. I don't care. If it does, that's great because that means I believe
Does
that
double
people should be
jeopardy
able to
not
see through.
apply in San Andreas to?
Double jeopardy does apply, but it has to be the same. Well, I'm going to say what I know. I don't know if it, but double jeopardy applies if the same issue is being attacked that's already been decided. Like if I'm
Hmm.
tried for murder and I'm found guilty of murder, or I'm found not guilty, not enough evidence, whatever. They
But
can't
because
come back
this,
because they
hmm,
find the body and they find my prints and everything. They
hmm,
can't try me again for that murder because I've already been acquitted of it.
hmm.
But what you can do is you can sue me civilly. You see,
Hmm.
that civil. That's what I had to explain to somebody on the docket. Criminal and civil are not the same thing. They operate on two different legal frameworks.
Wasn't the
The
case yesterday civil though?
Yeah, it was civil.
But you can
It was civil.
appeal the civil suit again
You can
because it's
appeal it.
civil.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
okay.
can appeal it.
That's
Yeah.
really good. I
You can
wasn't.
appeal it. You can appeal a murder conviction as well. You have well in a lot of places you have the ability to. There's an appeal process.
I
It
just
goes
didn't know
appeal,
you
appeal,
could do
appeal,
that
appeal until
here.
you run out of appeals, and then you just that's it.
Hmm.
That
Interesting.
you're convicted. But there's usually a pretty extensive appeal process that you can try, even if you're convicted of something like murder. I don't
Hmm.
know if that's applicable in this state, but where I'm back home, where I'm from in New York, that's a fact. And civilly, the only issue is that criminal obviously is for punishment, and civil is for compensation mostly. So
Hmm.
yeah, I would tell him to, if he's really unhappy with his lawyers, find another one and try, and if not, let them try again and see if it can work. But no verdict. Um, I'm not gonna say it's not set in stone, but just because you get this verdict doesn't mean you can't try to appeal it if you really disagree with it or you think something was not considered or there's new information, whatever. That should be something he can pursue if he really wants to.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well.
Oh, I was gonna say something before I forgot.
Hmm.
I was gonna say, I hope it doesn't embarrass you, but you kind of changed my life, and I'm really grateful for that.
Hey. Well.
So, thank
Hey.
you.
Hey. Oh, of course.
Right.
Um.
I'm gonna run into
All
the
right.
woods now.
All right. I've. You stay
All
safe.
right,
Yeah.
take care. Bye bye.